Hello, my name is Francis Fox, and this is our chat, Francis Fox News from Other Dimensions, and it does get converted into a podcast, and it's on Spotify and Apple. I haven't been around a lot lately. I have, of course, many observations, thoughts, and opinions on what is getting released in terms of the Epstein files. Um, it's triggered some memories that have not been so much fun, but it wasn't fun going through it, and it needs to happen. Let me go through the map first. Um, let's see if I put the map up here. If not, you'll just have to bear with me while I. No, I'm not going to rate the conversation right now, okay? Okay, give me a second. The United States is looking good. It had stopped looking good. And basically, I'll just show you with it in my hand what I sketched on the 11th. Which is basically just one line. It is blue going through the United States, but that means there's no balance. It's only male energy, no female energy, and it's going across. It wasn't good. That has self corrected a lot. Let me show you what we look like today, which I'm very happy about, Trump. Give me a second. This is the map. Today's an eclipse. Today is another one of those situations of before and after. Things are supposed to change dramatically after today. And supposedly after today, you will know if you're on the right side of the line. Did your frequency put you on the side where things are getting better and you have optimism and you feel that your life can get really good or is getting really good? Or does it feel like your life is deteriorating and you don't see your way out of your problems? It's one of those two. There's no medium ground. And this is what they talked about in the Bible. Two are at the well, God comes, one is left there, one is lifted away. The Mayans talk about it, the dolphins. So we are at a point in it where the gap between those whose frequencies, vibration is not heavy because they've taken care of traumas, they're living truth. Um, things are going to get really good. And I think part of that getting good is the whole issue with Tartaria. Is that how you pronounce it in English? Tartaria. I was talking about it because I saw stuff on X, and then I said in my horoscopes this week, listen, pay attention to Tartaria because that's coming up big and it's going to be really great for the planet. And then the next day, Putin released Russian documents. So keep your eye open for that, and you're going to find that it's going to have a lot to do with what is magical technology. And it is apparently, from what little I've read, it's all about acoustics, the buildings being built with incredible acoustics. Sound is what can heal you the quickest. Sound is what makes you the sickest the quickest. Microwave and Wi-Fi have sound, and they have made us all sick. That's why our children are less intelligent, more sick, less attention spans, less fertility, because of the frequencies that we're living in an ocean of really bad frequencies, which you can offset. By the way, and again, I share things and you can go, oh, I'm not believing this woman ever again. Okay, you'll come back to me later. The dragons, which were considered by some modern people to be mythical figures, are very real. It's an energy. They protect from microwave radiation. I'm sure they protect from 5G also, which is like a gift and a miracle. So just visualize yourself with a small dragon, cute as a button, on each one of your shoulders. And visualize it on everybody that you love. They all have a little dragon sitting on their shoulders. Okay? And we'll talk about that later. Back to the map. United States has a protection from the Galactic Federations. That's that Merkaba, which is the Star of David. which has been considered a talisman for over 6,000 years. And in Judaism, they picked it up, I think, around 2,000 years ago. But it's basically a type of magic that's protective. And if you have that on top of you, you're protected. The United States lost it for several days. It's back. Why is it back? The words are underneath the map, and the truth shall set you free. I also got the United States, Mexico is doing really good. Florida, again, we have the green of healing, great. The part of Texas that, in my opinion, is energized by Elon also has the green color. There wasn't anything else interesting that I was guided to sketch. There was um, on the US map. But underneath, it says, and the truth shall set you free. And that's what the Epstein file revelation are, the truth. You can't hold it back. I mean, I'm going to go into that in a minute. And the big thing that came out in the sketch, other than the fact that we are on track again, were the words Venezuela, but you can add Cuba, will be temptation after temptation. What does that mean? Venezuela is going to trigger old patterns that were set in place years ago, decades ago, a couple hundred years ago. The whole American imperialism, the ugly American, the whole 9 yard. That's not where Trump is at, but that's the pattern. And patterns are really difficult to break. They're like habits, but at a deeper level. So those patterns have to be watched out for. The whole Cuban Venezuela thing, please do not put a Cuban in charge of anything having to do with Venezuela or anything having to do with Cuba, because we're never going to get out of it. The triggers are too great. Patterns are very real. When you have a pattern, it's very difficult to exercise free will. So just don't let them near there. Don't let them near there. People that can actually think, and it won't be so easy for them to fall into the pattern of, oh my God, look at this piece of candy. I want to play here, Cuba. Wow, look at those riches. Why can't I have part of that, Venezuela? You already have the Vatican doing that, piling on in Venezuela in business suits, okay? Not just in their clergy, because they want to be front with the negotiations with ETs, having to do with natural resources, and having to do with what's power in this cycle that we're going into, which includes elegant interface with everything that has to do with the galactic, which is not just the alien beings, but it's the things that they can offer us that they offered to the German Nazis, and they got incredible technology. They offered to a lot of people, to the Egyptians, and they got the Great Pyramids. And then, of course, those bad ETs pulled the rug out from under, took down the civilizations. But there are good ETs. A lot of them they look like angels. They look like gods and goddesses that are helping human beings. They're not even remotely all bad, but you do have to have something of an education to be able to determine who you're dealing with. Because I can tell you, they can give you more than you could ever dream of. But they're laughing behind your back and they will take you down. You'll get up there and then they'll cut you in the back of the knees. So you have to know who you're dealing with and how to deal with them, how to be able to tell the difference. So, do I have that information right now at my fingertips? No, but I'm getting it all put together. I have dealt with them. A lot of people that are into metaphysics have dealt with them, but at a different level. Right now, what I'm talking about has to do with something that we have in modern life, which is like business, which used to be called barter, and maybe something different in the near future. It's exciting. This is an exciting time to be living. Okay, so keep on top of the Tartaria information. At some point, it's going to take over the news, and it's really fascinating. The most fascinating part of it is that whoever made the decisions about erasing those cities, those people, used a black magic technique, which I've been talking to you about. It's called the veil of forgetfulness. Now, the regular santeros and witches and curanderas, a lot of them know how to do this on a smaller scale with their clients, and their clients said, listen, I honestly, I want that man to forget about me. Can you do something? And they'll do a ritual. I don't know how they do it. It's got to be interesting, but whatever. And they create black magic that's a veil of forgetfulness, and that person will forget about you. And they really will. Now, they did that on a planetary level, having to do with the 300,000 children that were missing. And I kept saying, why isn't everybody screaming about this? Not in the United States. The parents, the grandparents, the cousins, the sisters and brothers of those 300 Hispanic children, and everybody who played with them and went to school with them. Why are we hearing the screaming? Veil of forgetfulness. And that veil has gone down many times on the planet. And it went down on the 300,000 children, on what they were doing and bringing in all the Hispanics, not the Hispanics, the illegal aliens and stuff where you go, whatever happened to that? It's like there's a mist. Well, it's not really a mist. It's a type of magic. That's the veil that goes down after a woman births a child. Everybody says, I'm never doing this again. What are you, crazy? And then within a week, you don't remember the pain. That is an example of the veil of forgetfulness. It's very convenient. There's a lot of programming on humans. There was supposed to be a programming that would be automatic when somebody that you loved passed, died. That veil of forgetfulness was supposed to come down to a certain extent, and there was supposed to be a space of time in which you could kind of share with the person that died, not just simply it's finished, they're gone, their physical body and their spirit, we don't even know where it is. It was supposed to be a nice short space of time, and then the veil of forgetfulness was supposed to come down so that you would be able to continue forward. They nixed that veil of forgetfulness pattern uh, programming. There's a programming having to do with diabetes. So if you have diabetes, you could have a problem with your feet, your Achilles heel, da 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 da. Okay, well that means you have diabetes. That's why you have that. Okay, why the feet? Why the Achilles heel? Why? Well, that's just the way it is. No, it's a programming. There's a lot of program, and they can be broken, but you got to know that they're there. And we should learn. You need to know a lot about black magic, and of course, it should be used not just. I'm not going to use the word appropriately. It should be used to where you don't go against the biggest law on the planet, which is free will, which has been the problem. Total disrespect for people's free will. Okay, in terms of sex trafficking, I want to bring this up because this is really important. I can match almost blow per blow a lot of that stuff that's come out that's totally ugly. The only thing I'm going to say now in terms of an experience and how it explains something, when I think it was the same trip when they sent me to Tibet. I'm not sure if it was a separate time. I was 10. But I was trained by a geisha. Uh, and you do not want to have anybody have to go through that. Oh my God, how delicate, how feminine. Okay. The one thing I wanted to mention was because everybody fills in the blanks, and they were talking about how they had dentists and they did dental work. Well, when I was there, and they do have you sleeping in those bunks that's basically a wall with planks, and several stories high. There was a little girl there. She must have been like 7 or 8 years old, and she was turned over to this geisha house, whatever. And she didn't understand what sex was. She didn't get it. She was like totally lost. Okay. Not really okay, but okay. And one of the nights, because my bunk was here, my bunk was here, and she was down here. They knocked all her teeth out. They didn't use a dentist. They knocked all her teeth out so that she could pleasure old men. So it wasn't so that it's sorry. I've said this story several times, and I thought I had stopped crying about it. I felt so bad for her. She didn't know what the hell was going on. Okay, so I start to remember things, veil of forgetfulness, in the 90s, and I go to three separate psychologists, one who specialized in uh, political prisoners, torture victims, I don't remember what else, and then another one specialized in extreme PTSD, and the other one specialized in sexual abuse. Anyway, all from the University of Miami. I do not recommend that institution at all. They were kind to me. There was no issue of them not believing me. Um, none, there was no issue. Uh, but at that time, one of the issues, and the only reason I went to work with Dr. Colin Ross was one of the psychologists, Dr. Marsha Cohen, said, we can't continue to work with you. And I went, what do you mean you can't continue to work with me? I need help. I need to be able to figure this out. First was I need to figure out if I was crazy. I was making up all these stories, and they kept saying, "You're not crazy. Are you making up the story?" And I say, "No, it's like I'm remembering, but that's not possible." Okay. So she said to me, "We can't work with you anymore." Why can't you work with me anymore? She said, "Because you're still in a situation of abuse. The Cuban cartel mafia was still totally manhandling me." She said, "So we're not allowed to work with people when they're still in a situation of abuse. They need to be pulled out." I said, "Well, we can't do, I don't know how to pull myself out." I went to three lawyers at around that time, and each one of them said the same thing to me. "We can't help you." Well, why not? Because you fall under national security. You are an asset of the US government. So what I want to say, Trump, is national security, because basically it's taking down the country. Why on earth did that group of people who determine national security get so privileged? Why did they get so much power? Why? And whoever allowed that and continues to allow that, you're just basically truncating your ability to be a free person. Why? Is it I'm an asset? I'm getting abused, but I'm an asset. So therefore, I have no place to go for help, which is basically what has been my life. No place to go for help. That is changing now with Trump. Let's see, because even today, my handler, I can feel him circling where I'm living. Now, can that be paranoia? Absolutely. But do I think that you guys are savvy enough to actually have that man under control, Rene Villegas? No, no. He should go down in history. He does have all that black magic down pat and knows more than everybody else put together. But the whole issue of national security is probably what, in the Epstein files, we can't put that out, national security. National security. It's going to take you down. The other countries aren't going to take you down, Trump. It's going to be the national security. Let's cover this up. Let's cover this up. Let's cover this up. Let's cover this up. Don't do that. I was told that by three lawyers in the 90s. This is 30 some years later, and we're still using that excuse. And these were not, I mean, I went to what I thought that I could tell were the most sophisticated lawyers. But it was like within 2 minutes, they said, "Oh no, you're an asset. You fall under." I didn't say that I was an asset. I did not say that. I told them my story, what I remembered. I'd born in a base. Da, 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 da. Anyway, if you don't ditch the national security thing, we may never find out. We are going to find out. We are in Revelations. All that stuff is coming out anyway. Nobody's going to be able to stop it. This is a planetary process. The same way the veil of forgetfulness could go down, all of that stuff is coming up. So figure out who started that, who's still using that as an excuse. It doesn't work. They should have. I'm going to drop that. Obama, what appears to be coming out in X is that Obama was set up since he was a child to become president. Okay. Now, there's a lot of stuff that comes out in all the news, but I absolutely believe that because I think if you check, you're going to find that his father came over from whatever country via a US program for helping kids, like the Operation Peter Pan, which ends up having all of those kids fall under the mind control program. What can I contribute having to do with that? When I was young, they considered having me run for president. I was a little kid. I was a kid, not a little kid, but I don't know, 7, 8, 9, 10. And then after that, it was because they were trying to figure out maximum use of this very talented, multidimensional person. And then they considered having me marry somebody who would end up being president. And they nixed all of that. But the reason they nixed it was kind of sweet. They said, I love too much. And they weren't going to be able to get me to function with whatever they wanted because I would go, I'm not going to do that. Why are you doing that to that person? Now, was I able to hold that stance and everything? No. But apparently it was strong enough in me, the love for people, that they decided it wasn't worth it. They were not going to do that. It wasn't that I wasn't skilled, but that I had a personality that it was hard for them to control in that arena. And I do know that I was called so-and-so's brat for a couple of decades. That would have been my control because I was very determined and took a stand, even though I was in a very lousy position. I still, within that, I did not, to the best of my ability. That's what can I tell you? What can I tell you? Okay. So the truth shall set you free. We are in truth. National security is a big block. Let's get it the hell out of the way. And let's finish with this because we are entering a great time. We are entering a time where white magic can make everybody's lives. Elon talks about it in terms of AI and technology. I'm talking about it in terms of what creates reality, which is your mind. Your mind creates reality. You can create technology. Your mind is the one that's doing all of that. So we're coming into a wonderful time having to do with the human mind and having to do with the ability of magic. I need to make a petition. I need those tantric monks here to be able to stabilize Florida, and I have a place for them. And then I had a second position. Request, and now I forgot what the second request was. You got to take care of the national security excuse, bring in those darn monks. Oh, darn, what was the rest? I don't remember. Next time, we'll try not to take a week in between Francis Fox Revelations. Okay? So I'm going to cut it short here. And that's it. So watch out for Cuba and Venezuela having to do with people being tempted by the pattern of let's squeeze whatever we can, use it whatever way we can. And all the cartels are looking at Cuba. I don't know if they're still looking at them. I have to check that. But a month ago, the cartels were all looking at to make Cuba their base. So I have to assume, Trump, that you have to figure out how to make that stop, and I have to assume it's going to have to require a change of government or whatever. And I want to remind you, you guys, again, Cuba was named the sexiest place in the world around 10 or 15 years ago. I think it was after a National Geographic article. That is no longer the case. What changed? Cuba got cell phones. And the radiation from cell phones and from 5G kills sexuality. Why? Because where your sexuality is 2 inches below your belly button. And that area channels the element of water. What does Wi Fi and 5G do? It evaporates water. So we're all limping in in our sexuality mainly because of that. So why am I saying this now? Because I just remembered, because you see all these problems, they're not going to be really important if people don't reproduce themselves. So we have to get back to that, Trump. As soon as we can. Oh, I know what I wanted to talk about, but we're not going to do this. We're not going to do it this time. If you really want to solve things, you can't get into the mess of it. You have to go to cause, first cause, root cause, not the symptoms. What we're seeing now is symptoms of a very sick society that allowed a group of people to get away with murder. And a lot of the protection had to do with national security. Okay, but what's the root cause? Why are there so many Americans that are so sick? And so many people in charge that are so sick? Well, first place, there's a lot of blackmail. You, oh, that was what I wanted to tell you. The root cause of what's going on in planet Earth has to do with the fact that there are off planet beings from Orion that want to take down this planet. The spirits that they send here are called incubus and succubus. You've heard of those. They're horrifying. They're perverted. Yes, they are perverted. Sex trafficking, all those tortures, those are the spirits. So what's the trick? They come here because of Orion, and they know how to mess up human beings' minds to where they get to where we are today. So your enemy is not another human being. Even if you're in a court case with them, that's not your enemy. Humanity's enemy is not another human being. It's off-planet enemies. Okay? Got that. So the other story that I wanted to tell you was, I don't know what, you know what? I'm not going to tell this story because I'm not exactly sure what the repercussions are. So I'm not going to tell you that. And Guadalupe would like me to write everything down. Do you know how many things I have already written down? I can be very ADD, but I've told you the story of giving a very good lecture that everybody loved decades ago that my kids went to. Everybody loved it because it was about other dimensions, whatever. And after the lecture, my children said to me, yeah, that was good. And the people really liked it. But you're like a little bit disorganized. And I went, okay. So what I did the next time, because I got invited back to lecture again, I organized myself. Not even remotely as good as when I allowed my head to do whatever the hell it wanted to. So Guadalupe, we're not going to be doing that. I have notes, but I let myself move in whatever direction my creativity takes me, which will make some people crazy, like all the people that are perfectionists. But everybody has their style. Bye. We'll see you again. It's getting better. Today's an eclipse. According to Buddhism, everything you do today gets multiplied 1,000 times, or it's 10,000 times. It gets multiplied a lot. So try to set up good stuff, whatever's left